As Ethan walked through the Foundation's headquarters, now a dynamic hub of activity with teams planning projects in distant countries, he often paused to reflect on the journey that brought him here. The walls of the office were lined with photographs of the places and people whose lives had been touched by the Foundation's work. Smiling faces in newly irrigated fields, children attending newly built schools in their villages, and wildlife thriving in areas once threatened by environmental degradation. The Foundation's impact was not limited to rural transformations. Urban sustainability initiatives had also taken root, with projects focusing on green building practices, urban farming, and pollution reduction. These initiatives transformed cityscapes, turning gray spaces green and fostering communities where people lived healthier and more connected lives. Ethan's leadership style was deeply influenced by the lessons he had learned during his quest with Laura. He led with a sense of adventure, a commitment to discovery, and a profound respect for the natural world. His approach encouraged innovation and collaboration, drawing on the diverse strengths and ideas of his team to tackle challenges and envision a sustainable future. The legacy of Eleanor, once encapsulated in hidden blueprints and secret diaries, had grown into a powerful narrative of environmental stewardship and community empowerment. It was a story that resonated deeply in a world increasingly aware of the need for sustainable change. Ethan and Laura often shared their story at conferences and seminars, not only to inspire, but to ignite a similar passion in others to pursue sustainability as a valuable treasure. Now, as Ethan looked out over the city from his office window, he saw not just a skyline, but a horizon brimming with potential. The challenges were many, but the opportunities to make a meaningful difference were greater. Inspired by Eleanor's legacy, he was driven by the belief that the greatest treasures were not composed of gold, but of opportunities to create a better future for all. Reflecting on his journey, Ethan realized that the true treasure was the journey itself. The people met, the challenges overcome, and the knowledge that each step taken was a step toward making the world a more sustainable and compassionate place. As he prepared for the next chapter, he was filled with hope and determination, ready to guide the Foundation into new territories, exploring not just the physical frontiers of the planet, but the expansive potential of human creativity and resilience. As Arthur drew closer to the solitary figure under the meager shelter of an umbrella, the dim light from a nearby street lamp revealed her more clearly. She was an elderly woman, her face etched with the lines of many years, and her frail form hunched against the relentless assault of the rain. The umbrella she clutched was old and tattered, barely able to fend off the elements, fluttering with every gust of wind like a wounded bird struggling to stay aloft. Her eyes, clouded with the onset of age, looked up as Arthur approached. In the gloom, her gaze seemed to flicker with a mix of apprehension and hope. Arthur noticed her shoes, worn and ill-fitting, soaked through, causing her to shift her weight from one foot to the other in an attempt to find some respite from the cold puddles that had formed around her. "Good evening, ma'am," Arthur said, his voice gentle, trying to mask his own turmoil with a calm he scarcely felt. "It's quite a downpour tonight. Can I offer you some assistance? Perhaps walk you to a nearby shelter or wherever you're headed?" The woman's expression softened, a small smile breaking through her weathered features. "Oh, thank you, young man," she replied, her voice a fragile whisper carried away almost instantly by the wind. "I'm just trying to make my way home, but it's a bit further than I remembered. The rain makes it harder to see, and everything seems so different in the dark." Arthur nodded, understanding all too well how the city transformed under the cloak of night, especially under such harsh weather conditions. He offered his arm, which she took with a gratitude that was palpable, her hand cold and trembling. Together they began to walk slowly, her pace cautious and measured, each step seeming to require a deliberation that spoke volumes of her fragility. As they moved through the deserted streets, Arthur couldn't help but feel a kinship with this stranger, united by their shared battle against the night's challenges. The rain continued to fall, relentless, the sound of water splashing under their feet merging with the rhythmic dripping from rooftops, creating a symphony of the storm that surrounded them. They passed closed shops with darkened windows, the reflections of streetlights on the wet pavement, creating eerie, elongated shadows that danced around them. The city felt abandoned, left to the mercy of the storm, with only Arthur and his elderly companion moving through it, two solitary figures against the vast canvas of the night. Every so often, Elisa would comment on a landmark they passed, her words weaving a tapestry of memories associated with different spots along their route. "That's the bakery that used to make the most delightful rye bread," she remarked at one point, a note of nostalgia in her tone. "It's been closed for years, but I still remember the smell that filled the air every morning." Arthur listened, his attention divided between navigating the puddles and absorbing the stories that Elisa shared, each anecdote adding layers to the night's journey. Her memories painted a picture of a city that once was, glimpses of the past that seemed almost magical compared to the stark reality they now navigated. As they approached a particularly dimly lit part of the street, Elisa's grip tightened slightly, her steps faltering. "It's just a little further," she assured him, though her voice carried an undercurrent of uncertainty. This part of their journey would lead them into areas that held secrets of the past, both hers and the city's, revealing connections that were as unexpected as they were profound. As Arthur and Elisa continued their journey through the rain-soaked streets, the rhythm of their footsteps became a quiet backdrop to the unfolding narrative of Elisa's past. She spoke of years gone by with a clarity that belied the haziness of the evening, each memory a vivid brushstroke on the canvas of her life. She had lived alongside a family, she recounted, that had once filled her days with laughter and warmth, a stark contrast to the solitary figure she was now. Elisa's stories flowed like a gentle stream, her voice soft yet unwavering despite the storm around them. She spoke of summer picnics in the park that lingered into the cool evenings, of winter nights warmed by shared stories by the fireplace, and of springs marked by the blooming of cherry blossoms that the children would try to catch as they fell, like delicate pink snowflakes. Each season was a chapter of her life, deeply entwined with the family who had been her neighbors, her friends, her chosen kin. Arthur listened intently, the familiarity of her tales weaving through his consciousness. It wasn't just the nature of the memories that felt known, but the emotional landscape they painted. It mirrored his own experiences, those childhood afternoons spent in the embrace of a tight-knit community, where every face was familiar and every corner held a story. The contours of Elisa's recollections seemed to blur into the outlines of his own past, creating a shared narrative that spanned different times and different lives, yet somehow intersected on that rainy night. With every block they passed, the city seemed to shed a layer of its modern facade, revealing the bones of a time less burdened by the rush of contemporary life. Elisa pointed out old landmarks, some still standing, others long since replaced by newer, less characterful structures. "That corner store," she would say, pausing to gaze at a sleek modern building, "used to be the best place in town to get fresh bread. The baker, Mr. Henley, knew everyone by name." Her memories not only painted a picture of the past, but also cast a light on the subtle, often overlooked threads of continuity that connect one generation to the next. The places might change, she seemed to suggest, but the essence of life within them, the joy, the community, the simplicity of pleasure, remained constant, if only one knew where to look. As they approached a particularly old part of the neighborhood, the streets narrower and the buildings bearing the ornate decorations of yesteryears, Elisa's tone took on a wistful quality. "Just around this corner," she murmured, more to herself than to Arthur, her thoughts drifting to a time when the road less traveled was not only more common, but more cherished. Arthur felt a surge of anticipation and curiosity as they neared the address that Elisa had provided. The details of her stories now painting a rich tapestry that felt increasingly personal. It was as if each tale she told drew them not only closer to her destination, but deeper into a shared history, a collective memory that perhaps held more significance for both of their futures than either could have anticipated. The narrative was drawing them inexorably towards a revelation, one that would illuminate the connections between past and present, between memories and the very streets they walked. As Arthur and Elisa continued their journey through the increasingly familiar streets, The landscape around them began to transform into the backdrop of Arthur's childhood. With each turn they took, the city's present facade fell away, revealing the vibrant echoes of his past. The neighborhood, with its aging brick facades and wrought iron fences draped in climbing ivy, resonated with a nostalgia that tugged at Arthur's heart. The streets were narrower here, the pavements cracked and speckled with the remnants of playful chalk drawings that had long since faded. Trees, older and more stoic, lined the sidewalks, their branches arching over the road like protective arms. These were the guardians of his memories, under which he had played as a child, their leaves whispering secrets only the innocent could hear. As they turned onto his old street, a cascade of memories flooded Arthur's mind. Here was the corner where he had learned to ride his bike, the asphalt unforgiving in his numerous falls. There was the small park where he had spent countless summer afternoons, the laughter of his friends still echoing in the back of his mind, a sound as clear and as distant as the ringing of a long-lost friend's laughter through the phone. The houses, though somewhat changed with new paint and the occasional renovation, still held the essence of a time when life seemed simpler and infinitely more magical. Each one had a story, a history that Arthur could recount with the clarity of having lived and breathed them. His steps slowed, a reverence growing within him as each familiar detail came into view, each one igniting a spark of the child he once was. And then, there it was, his childhood home. The sight of it struck a chord deep within him, the windows like eyes peering back through time, reflecting his own mix of wonder and melancholy. The garden, where his mother had once tended to her roses with a devotion that spoke of love and care, was overgrown now, but the hint of red blooms fighting their way through the neglect spoke of resilience, of life persisting through the layers of time. Elisa guided him to the gate, her steps hesitant, as if she too recognized the sanctity of the moment. "This is it," her voice a whisper, almost drowned out by the surge of memories that the sight of the house evoked in Arthur. The gate creaked as they pushed it open, the sound a poignant note in the symphony of his recollections. Arthur's heart pounded with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation as they walked up the path, the crunch of gravel underfoot, a stark reminder of 1,000 similar journeys made in his youth. Each step brought him closer to the door, to the life he had left behind, each moment stretching long and full of emotion. As they reached the front porch, the reality of the present intertwined with the past. The door stood before him, as familiar as if he had passed through it yesterday, yet veiled with the patina of time and distance. It was more than just a physical threshold. It was a portal to his past, to days of joy and carefree laughter, now shadowed by the complexities of his current life. Arthur stood there, on the precipice of past and present, the stories that Elisa had shared during their walk merging with the tangible reality of his childhood home. As they prepared to step inside, the air seemed to thrum with the weight of unspoken stories, the house holding its breath in anticipation of the secrets it was yet to reveal, setting the stage for revelations that would bridge the gap between yesterday and today. Standing before the aged facade of the house where he had spent his formative years, Arthur felt a tangible shift in the air, as if the very atmosphere was charged with the revelations to come. The structure, with its peeling paint and the front porch that creaked under their weight, seemed to lean in, a silent observer to the unfolding drama of reunion and recognition. Elisa, standing beside him, her eyes scanning the familiar contours of the building, seemed to gather herself before she spoke. The revelation that she had once been his neighbor, a quiet presence just next door during his childhood, layered the moment with a profound sense of destiny reconnecting. Elisa recounted how Marina, Arthur's mother, had been a beacon of support and kindness to her during a particularly turbulent period in her life. Marina had extended friendship and care when Elisa found herself enveloped in the shadows of personal grief, her companionship a lifeline that had helped her navigate her darkest days. Arthur listened, each word adding depth to his understanding of the woman who stood before him. He realized that the threads of their pasts were interwoven more intricately than he had ever known. The familiarity he had felt with Elisa was rooted in a shared history, one that had been obscured by the passage of time but never truly severed. The impact of Elisa's words was profound. Arthur felt a swell of gratitude and a renewed connection to his mother through Elisa's memories. It was as if Marina's spirit was palpable in the space between them, her legacy of kindness echoing in the air, a reminder of the enduring nature of genuine compassion. Moved by this history of mutual support, Elisa expressed her decision to reciprocate the kindness she had once received. With a tone of resolve and a look of deep sincerity, she explained that knowing of the hardships Arthur and his mother now faced compelled her to act. It was her turn to extend the same kindness and support that Marina had shown her years ago. Arthur, overwhelmed by the gesture, felt a mixture of emotions. The shock of the unexpected connection, the warmth of nostalgic memories, and the sudden influx of hope mingled within him. Here, in the presence of his childhood home and the neighbor he never knew he had, the past and present merged, opening a door to new possibilities in the midst of his current trials. As they stood on the threshold of the home that held so many memories, the setting sun cast long shadows across the yard, the light glinting off the windows and painting the scene with hues of gold and amber. The atmosphere was ripe with anticipation, as if the house itself was waiting to play its part in the narrative of their lives. With a shared understanding, Arthur and Elisa stepped forward, ready to cross into the familiar yet unfamiliar space of his childhood home. Each step was a movement towards uncovering the depth of the bond that Marina had fostered, a bond that now promised new hope and assistance in times of need. As they reached the door, Arthur's hand hovered over the knob, a symbolic gesture poised between past comforts and future salvations, ready to turn it and step into a house filled with old echoes and new promises. As Arthur stepped through the threshold of his childhood home, the familiar scent of aged wood and musty memories enveloped him, each breath a vivid flashback to days long past. The house, though worn by time and neglect, whispered secrets through its creaking floors and the soft flutter of curtains in the drafty rooms. Elisa, with a measured step and an air of purpose, led Arthur through the dimly lit hallway, their footsteps echoing slightly in the quiet. The walls were adorned with faded photographs and paintings, each frame a testament to the life that had once thrived within these walls. Arthur's eyes briefly met the youthful gazes of his family in black and white, their smiles captured in a frozen echo of happier times. The emotional gravity of the house pressed down on him, a mixture of comfort and an eerie sense of intrusion, as if he were both home and in a foreign land. Elisa guided him to a small office at the back of the house. The door squealed gently on its hinges as they entered a room that seemed untouched by the outside world. Dust particles danced in the beams of light that struggled through the grimy window, illuminating patches of the old wooden desk and shelves laden with books and various trinkets that told tales of scholarly pursuits and eclectic interests. In the corner of the room, under a draped cloth that had gathered years of dust, rested an old safe. Its once shiny metal now dulled and speckled with rust. The safe stood as a stoic guardian of whatever secrets it held inside. Elisa pulled back the cloth with a reverence that suggested the act was as significant as the unveiling of a treasure long thought lost. Arthur's heart thudded with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The safe, robust and imposing, seemed almost anachronistic against the backdrop of faded wallpaper and old leather-bound books. Elisa watched him with a steady gaze, her eyes reflecting a knowledge of what was to come that only deepened the mystery. The tension in the room grew as Arthur approached the safe. The cool metal felt imposing under his tentative touch, a stark contrast to the warm, dusty air of the room. His fingers traced the old dial, the clicks of the mechanism sharp in the heavy silence that hung between them. Elisa stepped forward, her presence a calming force in the tangible suspense. "This safe," she began in a low tone, "contains something of great importance, something that has waited quietly through the years for just the right moment to come to light." Her words hung in the air, heavy with significance and the weight of history. Arthur, his curiosity now meshed with a growing sense of responsibility, felt the gravity of what this moment represented. Not just a physical unlocking of whatever lay within the safe, but an emotional unveiling of further connections to his past, to his mother's legacy, and perhaps to the future that awaited him beyond the walls of this room. With each turn of the safe's dial, the anticipation built, the old gears groaning under the strain of movement after years of dormancy. The moment was drawing near, the unveiling of hidden treasures or forgotten stories that the safe guarded, a pivotal point that would bridge his past with his present and future. In the dim light of the old office, the atmosphere thick with the dust of decades and the weight of expectation, Arthur and Elisa stood before the ancient safe, its metallic surface cold and unyielding under their touch. Elisa's face was marked with concentration, her brow furrowed as she delved into the recesses of her memory, searching for the key that would unlock the secrets held tight within the rusted iron guardian. The room around them seemed to hold its breath, the old books and faded papers casting long shadows that danced slightly with the flickering of the overhead light. Arthur watched Elisa's expressions change with each failed attempt to remember the correct combination. The frustration was palpable, but beneath it lay a thread of excitement, a palpable energy that charged the air with every turn of the dial. Finally, Elisa paused, her eyes closing as she summoned a distant memory, a fragment of her past that held the answer they needed. When she spoke again, her voice was steadier, imbued with the confidence of realization. "The combination, it's the date of my grandfather's birth," she whispered, almost to herself. A sense of relief washed over her as the numbers aligned in her mind, clear and precise. Turning back to the safe, Elisa carefully dialed the numbers, her fingers trembling slightly with the gravity of the moment. Arthur stood close, his presence supportive, as he watched the numbers align under her skilled guidance. The old mechanism clicked, a sound so faint yet so definitive in the quiet of the room. With a final turn, the dial stopped, and the mechanism within the safe gave a heavy groan, as if awakening from a long slumber. The door creaked slowly open, the hinges protesting with a shrill screech that seemed to echo off the walls of the room, magnifying the moment of revelation. As the door swung open, the contents of the safe were gradually exposed, each item shadowed and mysterious in the half-light. The air around them seemed to thicken with the dust stirred into motion, particles catching in the shafts of light that the open door now allowed into the dark interior of the safe. Inside, the safe was a treasure trove of items, each with its own story, each a piece of a puzzle that spanned generations. There were stacks of old, yellowed papers, their edges curling with age, sealed envelopes that bore the marks of long-past correspondence, and small, intricate trinkets that shimmered dimly in the subdued light. Arthur's gaze was drawn to a particularly well-preserved envelope, its seal unbroken but aged to a deep amber color, suggesting it held contents that had not been viewed for many years. Beside it lay a small, velvet-covered box, its exterior faded, but still hinting at the richness of what it might contain. The discovery was overwhelming, a direct connection to a past that both Elisa and Arthur felt but never fully understood. Each item held the potential to reveal secrets, to unearth stories that had been buried under the weight of time. As they began to carefully remove the items, setting them on the dusty desk with reverence, the room seemed to grow even quieter, the shadows deepening around them, as if leaning in to listen to the stories about to unfold. The past was opening before them, ready to reveal its secrets and the deep connections that these long-hidden items represented. As the contents of the old safe were laid out on the dust-coated desk, Arthur and Elisa's eyes were inevitably drawn to one particular item that outshone the rest both literally and metaphorically. Nestled among aged documents and faded photographs was a diamond of striking size and brilliance. Even in the subdued light of the old office, it captured the scant rays of sunlight filtering through the window, refracting them into a myriad of dazzling sparks that danced across the room's worn surfaces. The diamond lay on a velvet pillow, slightly worn at the edges, but still regal in its presentation. It was set in an old, open jewelry box that suggested it had once held pride of place among someone's possessions. As Arthur leaned closer, the sheer size and clarity of the gem became even more apparent, its facets meticulously cut to showcase its stunning beauty and the masterful craftsmanship of its creator. Elisa watched Arthur's reaction closely, a mixture of pride and melancholy coloring her features. She knew the weight of the history this gem carried, not just in physical heft, but in its significance to her family. After a moment of letting Arthur admire the diamond, she began to share its story, her voice low and tinged with reverence. "This diamond," Elisa began, her eyes not leaving the sparkling gem, "has been in my family for generations. It was originally mined in the distant lands of South Africa, brought over by sea by my great-grandfather, a man of adventure and great foresight. Throughout the years, it has been a symbol of our family's endurance and prosperity, even through the hardest of times." She paused, her gaze shifting to meet Arthur's, ensuring the gravity of her next words was fully appreciated. "Now, I want you to have it," she continued solemnly. "Your mother, Marina, was a beacon of support for me when I faced some of the darkest days of my life. The kindness she and your family showed me, it's something I've never forgotten. This diamond, it helped my family once, and now I hope it can do the same for yours." Arthur felt a profound sense of awe and responsibility as he listened to Elisa. The offer was generous beyond words, the value of the diamond undoubtedly significant. Yet, it was the intention behind it that truly overwhelmed him. This was not merely a transfer of wealth, but a passing of a legacy, an act of gratitude that transcended monetary value. The diamond seemed to glow even brighter as the weight of its history and future purpose settled over the room. Arthur's mind raced with thoughts of how this could change not just his life but his mother's as well, providing for her medical needs, and perhaps restoring some semblance of stability to their lives. As they stood there, the magnitude of Elisa's gesture enveloping them in a shared silence, the room seemed to shrink, the walls drawing closer as if to embrace the moment and seal it away from the world outside. The legacy of the diamond, now revealed, awaited its new chapter, a chapter that would begin with its integration into the lives of Arthur and his mother, promising relief and perhaps a new beginning. With the diamond's fate now resting in Arthur's hands, they prepared to explore the other items from the safe, each potentially holding more stories, more connections to the past, and more implications for the future. As they turned their attention back to the desk, the diamond continued to sparkle in the corner of Arthur's eye, a constant reminder of the new path that was unfolding before him. As the full import of Elisa's gift settled upon his shoulders, Arthur stood momentarily still, the magnitude of the gesture rendering him almost motionless. The diamond, with its brilliant facets casting prismatic light across the cluttered surfaces of the office, symbolized far more than monetary wealth. It embodied a trust and an expectation that was overwhelming in its scope. Arthur felt a profound sense of gratitude, his heart swelling with the recognition of Elisa's enormous generosity, yet simultaneously, he wrestled with the daunting implications of this new responsibility. The room around them, with its shelves of dusty books and walls lined with fading photographs, seemed to close in, bearing witness to the significant shift in Arthur's life. He was acutely aware of the diamond's potential to alleviate his current hardships, particularly the mounting medical bills and the ongoing care needed for his mother, Marina. Yet, the path to converting such a precious heirloom into a form that could practically aid their situation was fraught with complexities and moral considerations. Arthur pondered the steps that lay ahead, the process of appraising the diamond, ensuring its security, and then deciding the most beneficial way to use it to support his mother's health and their shared future was a labyrinthine task. Each decision needed to be measured and thoughtful, in keeping with the trust Elisa had placed in him. Despite these swirling thoughts, Arthur's resolve solidified. He internally reaffirmed his promise to Elisa to utilize the diamond judiciously. The gem, while a symbol of past prosperity, now represented a beacon of hope for his and his mother's future. However, beyond the logistical and financial strategies that began to form in his mind, Arthur was deeply aware of the personal transformation this gift necessitated. It was not just his circumstances that the diamond was meant to change, but also him as a person. Elisa, observing Arthur's contemplative silence, seemed to understand the tumult of emotions playing across his features. Her decision to pass on the diamond was not made lightly. It was a gesture steeped in the history of both their families, a closing of a circle that had begun generations ago. She stood by, a pillar of quiet strength, ready to offer support, but also giving Arthur the space to process the profound implications of her gift. As they continued to sort through the remaining items from the safe, Arthur's thoughts intermittently drifted to the diamond. Each object they uncovered from the depths of the safe, be it a faded letter, an old photograph, or a small, intricate trinket, seemed to echo back to the diamond's sparkle, reminding him of the interconnectedness of their pasts and the pivotal role he now played in shaping their futures. With a renewed sense of purpose, Arthur began to plan. He would need to consult with experts, perhaps seek legal advice to ensure that everything was handled correctly and ethically. The journey ahead would be challenging, no doubt, but armed with the legacy and trust bestowed upon him by Elisa, Arthur felt ready to take the first steps towards a new chapter, one that promised not only to redefine his family's fortunes, but also to honor the deep bonds and history that the diamond represented. With the diamond now in his possession, Arthur found himself at a critical crossroads. The gem's potential to alter their circumstances was immense, but the path to realizing that potential was strewn with practical and ethical challenges that required careful navigation. The office, once just a room filled with memories and old stories, had transformed into a planning ground for what would be one of the most significant undertakings of Arthur's life. Arthur began by laying out a comprehensive plan. His first task was to understand the exact value of the diamond, an undertaking that required expertise beyond his own. He researched and listed potential appraisers, noting their credentials and the security measures they employed. The importance of discretion and the need for a trustworthy evaluation weighed heavily on his mind. This was not merely a financial transaction, but a transfer of a deeply personal legacy. Next, he considered the logistics of converting the diamond's value into a form that could directly benefit his mother, Marina. The medical treatments she needed were expensive and ongoing, and while the diamond offered a substantial means, converting it into liquid assets presented its own set of risks and decisions. Arthur contemplated different scenarios, selling the diamond outright, or perhaps securing a loan against it that would allow them to retain the gem while also accessing the funds needed for Marina's care. Each option came with its complexities. Selling the gem could provide a large influx of funds, but it would also mean parting with the family heirloom forever. A loan, meanwhile, would keep the diamond in the family but posed risks associated with debt and interest. Arthur weighed these options against his mother's immediate and long-term needs, trying to strike a balance between financial prudence and the emotional desire to hold on to the diamond. As he delved deeper into the planning, Arthur also considered how this windfall could restore some stability to their lives beyond just medical expenses. He sketched out potential budgets, accounting for both their current costs and the anticipated funds from the diamond. This financial forecasting was not just about numbers. It was about envisioning a future where they were not constantly burdened by financial stress, a future where Marina could receive her treatments without the accompanying worry of how to pay for them. Amid these plans, Arthur also reflected on the broader implications of his decisions. The responsibility of handling such a valuable asset was new to him, and he felt the weight of ensuring that every step he took was in line with the trust Elisa had placed in him. His actions now would affect not just his and Marina's immediate future, but would also honor the legacy and the history that the diamond represented. With a deep sense of commitment, Arthur finalized his initial plans. He set up appointments with several highly recommended appraisers and started consultations with financial advisors who specialized in high-value assets. Each action was a step towards realizing the potential of the diamond, a step towards a new chapter for himself and his mother. As he organized the last of his notes and prepared for the meetings that would soon come, Arthur felt a mixture of determination and apprehension. The tasks ahead were daunting, but they were also imbued with the hope of substantial change. With the plans set in motion, he was ready to confront the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead, his resolve fortified by the tangible symbol of hope that glimmered from within its velvet-lined box. In the following days, Arthur embarked on a meticulous journey to uncover the true value of the diamond, and to explore the safest and most effective ways to leverage its worth. The gem's potential was enormous, but so were the risks associated with possessing such a high-value item. His meetings were carefully planned and executed with a level of discretion that was both necessary and somewhat unfamiliar to him. Arthur started by arranging private consultations with several renowned gemologists and appraisers, ensuring that each meeting took place in secure locations. He learned to navigate the intricacies of the gem trade, understanding not just the market value of such a diamond, but also the less tangible elements like its provenance and the particular characteristics that could enhance or diminish its worth. The experts were uniformly impressed by the diamond's clarity and rarity, offering Arthur a range of figures that underscored the gem's significant value. They provided him with certificates of authenticity and appraisals that meticulously detailed every facet of the diamond's makeup. Armed with this knowledge, Arthur felt better equipped to make informed decisions about the gem's future. Moreover, he delved into discussions with financial advisors who specialized in high-value assets. They discussed various strategies for liquidating such an asset, considering how to balance the need for immediate cash with the potential long-term appreciation of the diamond. They explored options such as private sales, auctions, and even the possibility of a temporary loan setup where the diamond would be used as collateral, allowing Arthur to retain ownership while still accessing the funds needed for his mother's care. These consultations also opened Arthur's eyes to the necessary precautions required to handle such transactions discreetly. The advisors stressed the importance of confidentiality, warning of the potential for theft or fraud. Security measures, including anonymous transactions, secure transport, and even the temporary deposit of the diamond in a vault during the sales process, were all discussed in detail. As he absorbed this influx of information, Arthur's perspective on wealth and its responsibilities broadened. He realized that the diamond was not just a ticket to financial security, but also a beacon that could attract both positive and negative forces into their lives. This understanding made him even more cautious, prompting him to take additional steps to safeguard their privacy and security. With a network of trusted experts now supporting him, Arthur felt more confident in his ability to navigate this complex terrain. The groundwork laid by these meetings was crucial, forming a solid foundation upon which he could build a stable future for his mother and himself. However, the enormity of the decisions before him remained daunting. Each option was weighed carefully, with the implications for their immediate and long-term futures carefully considered. The journey through the world of high-value assets was turning out to be as intricate and fraught with peril as it was potentially rewarding. Arthur knew that the next steps would involve making tough choices about how to proceed with selling or loaning the diamond. As he prepared for these decisive actions, the lessons learned from each expert were carefully cataloged in his mind, ready to be applied as he moved forward to the next phase of the plan. After weeks steeped in preparation, research, and careful negotiations, Arthur's diligent efforts culminated in the secure sale of the diamond. The process had been a complex tapestry of private meetings, discreet communications, and finely tuned logistics, all orchestrated to maintain the utmost security and confidentiality. He had chosen a private sale over an auction, negotiating directly with a collector recommended by his trusted advisors, ensuring a controlled environment and a fair price that reflected the diamond's substantial worth. The transaction was conducted in a secure location, with both parties flanked by legal and security personnel, a testament to the diamond's value and the seriousness with which Arthur approached the whole affair. The final exchange, while clinical in its execution, was charged with a palpable sense of momentousness. When the deal was concluded and the funds securely transferred, Arthur felt a deep exhale of relief, a burden lifted, yet a new responsibility beginning. The substantial sum he received was immediately allocated to several urgent uses. Foremost among them was Marina's medical care. Arthur wasted no time in settling outstanding medical bills and ensuring that future treatments were prepaid. The relief of knowing that his mother's healthcare needs were securely funded brought a peace of mind that had been sorely missing in recent years. With his mother's immediate needs taken care of, Arthur turned his attention to the second part of his plan, establishing a small business. This venture was not just a means to ensure ongoing income, but also a fulfillment of a long-held aspiration. He chose to invest in a local coffee shop, a place aimed at becoming a community hub, reflecting his desire to create something tangible and nurturing. A place that could serve as a warm gathering spot in the neighborhood, much like the supportive community his mother had once fostered for Elisa. Arthur approached this new venture with the same meticulous attention to detail that he had applied to the sale of the diamond. He renovated a cozy spot in the heart of the community, combining modern comforts with homely touches that invited customers to linger. The walls were adorned with artwork from local artists, and shelves were stocked with books, making it a place of culture and relaxation. The coffee shop quickly became a favorite in the neighborhood, a testament to Arthur's vision and his commitment to using the resources from the diamond sale to generate positive outcomes, not just for himself and his mother, but for the broader community. It was a fulfilling endeavor, seeing his efforts blossom into a thriving hub that brought people together, serving as a daily reminder of the new beginning he had forged from the challenges he had faced. As the shop grew in popularity, Arthur found himself at the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one filled with hope and burgeoning success. However, with new beginnings come new challenges and opportunities. Arthur knew that managing a growing business while ensuring his mother's continued care would require balancing his time and resources carefully. Looking forward, he planned to expand the coffee shop's offerings, considering evening events like music nights or book readings, which would require more planning and investment. As he mapped out the future steps for his business, he was keenly aware that each decision would influence not just the success of the shop, but the well-being of the community and the legacy he hoped to build upon the foundation laid by the sale of the diamond. As the weeks turned into months, Arthur witnessed the budding success of his new venture and the stabilization of his mother Marina's health, each day bringing a lightness to his step that had been absent for too long. The coffee shop, with its inviting aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the warm ambiance he had so carefully curated, was not just a business, but a testament to a new chapter of hope and community engagement. Marina, whose health had significantly improved thanks to the financial stability provided by the diamond sale, was now a regular presence at the coffee shop. Seated comfortably in her favorite corner, her presence added a personal touch to the space and endeared the customers even more to the establishment. Her improvements were not just in her physical health, but in her spirits too. The joy of seeing her son's success and being part of a thriving community project had given her a new lease on life. Arthur divided his time between managing the coffee shop and spending quality time with his mother, ensuring that she received all the care and companionship she needed. The shop had become a gathering place for diverse groups of people, artists showcasing their work, students immersed in their books, and locals seeking a quiet escape or a joyful meetup spot. Each customer's visit added to the tapestry of stories and interactions that made the shop a vibrant community space. The success of the coffee shop also allowed Arthur to reinvest in the local community. He sponsored local art events, hosted book launches, and provided a platform for musicians to perform, nurturing the community that had embraced his business so warmly. These initiatives not only brought more patrons into the shop, but also strengthened the bonds within the community, creating a circle of support and appreciation that extended beyond the confines of the business. Arthur's approach to running the coffee shop reflected the lessons he had learned from the entire experience with the diamond. The importance of resilience, the value of community support, and the profound impact of using resources wisely and generously. His mother's presence in the shop became a symbol of the resilience and renewal that were at the heart of their shared journey. Her smiles a reflection of the peace and security they now enjoyed. As the coffee shop continued to flourish, Arthur began to explore further avenues for growth. He considered expanding the shop's physical space to accommodate more guests and possibly opening another location in a neighboring town. Each possibility was weighed not just for its business potential, but for its ability to contribute to the community's well-being and cohesiveness. The legacy of the diamond had indeed transformed their lives, but it was Arthur's vision and determination that multiplied that gift into broader blessings for many. As he planned for these expansions, he felt grounded in the knowledge that his actions were creating lasting positive impacts, not only in his and his mother's lives, but in the larger community they were now an integral part of. With the foundations firmly laid and the future looking bright, Arthur was ready to take the next steps, each one inspired by the journey he had undertaken from the moment he decided to sell the diamond. As the seasons changed and leaves turned golden around the bustling coffee shop, Arthur often found himself pausing amidst the daily rush to reflect on the transformative journey he and his mother had embarked upon. From the precarious instability that once overshadowed their lives to the flourishing enterprise they now ran, each step underscored the profound impact of acts of kindness, both received and given. The coffee shop, with its lively chatter and the comforting scent of coffee mingling with freshly baked pastries, had become more than a business. It was a community cornerstone, a place where old friends met and new friendships were forged. Behind the counter, Arthur became a familiar face to many, not just as a proprietor, but as a friend and confidant. His genuine interest in the lives of his patrons turned the shop into a sanctuary during the tough times the town sometimes faced. Inspired by Elisa's life-altering generosity, Arthur initiated a pay-it-forward program within the shop. Customers could buy a coffee or a meal in advance for someone who couldn't afford one. A small gesture, perhaps, but one that often brought significant relief and a smile to those who found themselves in need. This program was not just about providing a warm meal. It was about creating an environment where everyone, regardless of their situation, could enjoy a moment of peace and belonging. Further expanding his efforts, Arthur established a community fund, partially financed by the shop's profits, designed to assist local families during emergencies. Whether it was a family facing unexpected medical bills or someone struggling with temporary homelessness, the fund provided a lifeline, echoing the support Arthur had once desperately needed and received. Arthur also partnered with local schools to create art and reading programs, ensuring that the community's children had access to creative and educational outlets. By investing in the youth, Arthur was investing in the future, nurturing a new generation to appreciate and continue the cycles of kindness that had so dramatically shaped his life. As he watched his mother, now healthier and more vibrant, chatting with customers or reading in her favorite corner, Arthur was reminded daily of the power of community support. Marina, too, became an embodiment of the shop's spirit, often sharing her own stories and wisdom with those who needed encouragement. The coffee shop walls, adorned with local art and thank you notes from those who had benefited from the community fund, stood as a testament to the cyclical nature of generosity. Each note was a story, a life touched by the kindness that Arthur had learned to extend. Reflecting on his journey, Arthur realized that the true value of the diamond had never been in its monetary worth, but in the doors it opened for him to enrich and uplift others. His commitment to giving back had created a ripple effect, touching lives in ways he could have never anticipated. As he planned for the future, whether considering another business venture or expanding his community programs, Arthur remained guided by a philosophy of compassionate entrepreneurship. His life, once burdened by uncertainty and hardship, had become a beacon of hope and generosity, proving that even the smallest acts of kindness could ignite the most significant changes. Through the window, the setting sun cast a warm glow across the cafe, illuminating faces young and old, each carrying a story, each a part of the larger tapestry of community and care that Arthur had helped weave. In this moment of quiet reflection, he understood deeply that his greatest achievement was not in the wealth he had accrued or the business he had built, but in the lives he had touched and the community he had helped strengthen. As the day drew to a close, Arthur felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that the cycles of kindness he perpetuated would continue to echo through generations, long after the last coffee of the day was served.
So, if you're not subscribed yet, click on the subscribe button below and join our community. Thank you for your support and see you in the next videos.